This is David with the Head of Goliath. Painted around 1610, a young man holds a sword in one hand and a severed head in the other. The head belongs to Goliath, the giant David killed with a single stone. Except Goliath's face isn't a stranger's, it's the artist's own, staring back at you, full of repentance and anguish. Caravaggio painted his own face onto the severed head, and historians think he did it on purpose, as a desperate plea to save his own life. Now the real question is, who was Caravaggio? Michelangelo Merisi, better known as Caravaggio, was one of the most influential painters of the Baroque era. He pioneered a technique called tenebrism, extreme contrast between light and dark, where figures seem to emerge from total blackness lit by a single dramatic source. We can see this technique in paintings like The Calling of St. Matthew by Caravaggio himself and The Penitent Magdalene by French painter Georges de Latour. Caravaggio also broke the rules of religious painting, where other artists painted saints that looked untouchable, perfect, luminous, otherworldly. He went out into the streets of Rome and pulled his models from real life. Beggars, prostitutes, day laborers, people with weathered faces and rough hands. It was revolutionary. It was also, for some patrons, scandalous. But Caravaggio's reputation wasn't just built on a canvas. He had a temper, a sword, and a long list of run-ins with the law. In May 1606, Caravaggio killed a man named Ranuccio Tomassoni in Rome. The exact cause of the fight is debated. Accounts point to a gambling debt, though other sources describe a dispute that escalated into a street brawl. What's certain is that Tomassoni died, and Caravaggio was the one holding the blade. Caravaggio fled Rome immediately. He was charged and convicted of Tomassoni's murder and sentenced to death in absentia. For the rest of his life, Caravaggio was a wanted man, and he knew it. Caravaggio spent his final years moving constantly. Naples, Malta, Sicily, then back to Naples. In Malta, he was welcomed by the Grand Master of Knights of Malta, Aloof de Wingecourt, but that didn't last. He was later arrested and imprisoned there too, after another violent altercation, and had to escape. By the time he returned to Naples around 1609, Caravaggio was painting under constant threat, both from the law and reportedly from people actively trying to kill him. He'd survived an attack that left him disfigured. He was, by every account, a man running out of options, and he knew he had to do something if he ever wanted to be a free man again. It was during this period, while hiding with the Colonna family in Naples, that Caravaggio painted David with the Head of Goliath. Just look at the composition. There is no battlefield, no crowd, no triumphant pose, just David and what remains of Goliath. A severed head. David holds a sword, its blade spilling out of the frame, as if the violence had just happened. It's intimate, uncomfortable, almost too close. And David's face isn't triumphant either. He's looking down at Goliath with a compassionate expression. He's showing pity, not pride. Now look at the sword's blade. There's an inscription carved into it. The letters HASOS. It stands for Humilitas Occidit Superbium. Humility slays pride. The sinner was humbled. Caravaggio gave the painting to Cardinal Scipione Borghese, the Pope's powerful nephew and fixer, in hope that Borghese could persuade his uncle, Pope Paul V, to grant him a pardon. The most widely accepted reading among art historians is that this wasn't just a painting. It was a confession, an apology, and a plea, all rolled into one canvas, addressed to the one man who could save his life. And it almost worked. The cardinal's influence on the Pope convinced him to grant a pardon. Caravaggio set out to Rome by sea, carrying more paintings as gifts for Borges. But during the voyage, he was put ashore and detained, probably for questioning, and the boat he'd been traveling on set out to sea again, with his paintings still on board. Caravaggio was delayed on the Tuscan coast near Port Ercole and died of unknown causes in July 1610, never reaching Rome. The cause of death is still debated: malaria, lead poisoning from his paints, or given how many enemies he had, something more deliberate. He was around 38 years old. He died before he ever found out his pardon had been granted. Caravaggio's life ended in obscurity on a beach, but his technique didn't die with him. The dramatic light and shadow he pioneered went on to shape Rembrandt, Rubens, and the entire trajectory of Baroque painting. David, with the Head of Goliath, hangs today in the Galleria Borghese in Rome, the same collection it was sent to over 400 years ago, as one man's last attempt to buy back his life.